Hey everybody, welcome boys and girls, ladies and gents. We are here for another episode of Law Firm Marketing Mastery. Technically, we are here for episode number 78. And I've got some great stuff for you today. I've got an interview that is going to be amazing for you. But before we get to that, I want to tell you about something new that I've got. It is a 4-part training course that I put together, and it's all based off of this infographic that I created. It's my content creation strategy. I call it Be Everywhere. Kind of stole that a little bit from Pat Flynn, not gonna lie, but it's my Be Everywhere content creation strategy. And what I did was I went and I paid someone to make this huge infographic for me. It sort of runs you through my content creation strategy from start to finish. So from big idea all the way through to sending it out to the world via social media and a whole bunch of other ways. So if you want to get that, then this is all free training. You can get that by going to lawfirmmarketingmastery.com/be everywhere. All right, you can do it Be Everywhere altogether. You can do it Be dash everywhere. Doesn't matter. Still take you to the same place. Enter your name, email there. You'll get the infographic. You'll get the training videos. It'll be a game changer for you, guarantee you. So please go check that out. The training includes information about the infographic itself. I'm going to be talking about how to create the ultimate blog post, and I'm going to be talking about ways that you can find and get new ideas from all over the internet and then use them to create these amazing blog posts. All right. Plus there'll be some other stuff in there. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's going to be amazing. I've taken a lot of time to put it together, and I'm excited to give it to you. It's something that has been very helpful for me. And the whole point of this podcast is to share some secrets with you, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, enough about that though. Let's talk about what's going on today with our guest. Right, this guy, and I introduced him at the beginning of the interview, but this guy is a cool dude. He has been practicing for I think about 5 years. He's at his own law firm for 3 years, and he's a little bit like me. He's well read. He's read a lot of books. He's thought a lot about the way that he wants his firm to go. He is the son of entrepreneurs, so he has been in the business sort of his whole life. Not the law firm business. His parents weren't lawyers, but he has been in the world of the business owner for a long time, and that gives him kind of a unique perspective. And as you'll see throughout the interview, there's a lot of us agreeing with each other as far as philosophy goes and as far as decision-making ideas go. So I'm super excited to bring you this guest this week, and I'm really excited at what he's got to tell you, and I hope you can get some great lessons out of it and then use them in your firm. So without further ado, here we go.
It is my pleasure to introduce today's guest on the show, a lifelong entrepreneur who has turned that passion into starting and building a successful Miami law firm focused on helping other businesses reach the heights of success. I met our guest via Marc Cerniglia, a recent guest on the show. When we finished up, I asked him if he could give me some names of lawyers that were killing it with their practice. Without hesitation, he put me in touch with our guest here today. It is my honor and privilege to introduce to you all Brett Trembly, owner of Trembly Law Firm. What's up, Brett?
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me.
Hey, I thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. I know it was some back and forth. I was not as responsive as I should have been, so I apologize about that, but just craziness, But I sort of gave you a very short introduction, and why don't you take a couple of minutes, or as long as you want, to tell everybody a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Awesome. Well, first off, I think we were both out of town these past few weeks, so don't worry about the scheduling and lack of communication we had there for a while. Of course, that happens with law firms. It happens with business owners and with busy people. So as we grow our firms, we come up with new communication systems so that we can communicate while we're out of town, either in person or through our staff, which is, I guess, kind of the goal as you're growing your firm and your business. So A little bit about my background. I have been in Miami for just over 9 years now. So when I hit 10 years, I will officially declare myself a South Floridian. I figure a decade is enough time to say that I'm firmly planted here. Because 10 years will be more than half of where I lived when I grew up, is Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yep.
A lot of times I get the response, I've never met anyone from New Mexico before. And before Breaking Bad, I got a lot of, where the heck is New Mexico?
Nice.
So
Yeah, Breaking Bad has made you famous, right?
it really put us on the map, for better or worse. I would argue for better. One
I
of my
think for
all-time
better.
favorite shows. You've never been?
I've been through Albuquerque on my way to Phoenix a couple times. I've never been there
I
though.
know.
I've never spent time there.
Yeah, that's usually what we get. Kind of, I've heard of it, or I've seen it on TV, or I've been through there. But if you get a chance to visit, it is just a beautiful landscape, and the mixture of cultures that we have is just fantastic. And I think everyone's biased to their home food, but I think New Mexican food is the best on the planet. So.
Right. You guys have green
Um,
chilies or something like that, right? Is that
Thank you, Chris. People
that's your
don't
thing,
know what
right?
green chili is, but yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah. I
So,
think actually I don't know if I've ever even had a New Mexico green chili before, but I watch a lot of Food Network, and they're always talking about them
yeah.
on the Food Network, man. It's supposed to be awesome.
Yeah, we have some great, some of the best burgers in the country consistently. We got a few famous burger restaurants and a lot of good New Mexican food, which if you're thinking Tex-Mex, please, that's nowhere near what New Mexican food is.
Right.
It's so
Cool,
much
man.
better. So I basically went to a small school near the Texas border, kind of by the Lubbock Amarillo area,
Hmm.
called Eastern New Mexico University. I went 4 years, and then I did a victory lap for my 5th year so I could be student body president. I had 3 to 6 hours both semesters, so you can imagine the fun I had that year. And I applied to the University of Miami on the last day possible in 2005, after I got a letter from the Student Affairs Office offering me a position as a live-in fraternity graduate advisor. So I
Okay.
apply, I get in, I don't even come and visit. I just decide, you know what, I'm from Albuquerque. What can I possibly not like about Miami? So I
Right.
threw all my
Miami's
stuff in my
amazing.
car. Yeah, exactly. So, and I've been here ever since.
Okay, great, cool. What made you decide to go do law? Anything in particular?
To be honest with you, I was not ready to stop being a student. As
Right.
funny as that sounds, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't feel like I was as educated as I wanted to be, and I thought 3 more years of law school would be fun more than, you know what, I really want to be a lawyer. So
Right.
that was kind of why I went to law school.
Yeah. For me, I was a psychology major. So, when I graduated, I was like, well, I can't really get a job right now with my degree. So I either have to go to, become, go get a PhD or master's in psychology, or I can do something like law school. And I was like, oh, law school sounds cool. So let's do it. That's why,
Yeah.
I don't have any big grand story like some people do either, man. It is what it is. It was a pretty good choice, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I certainly wasn't setting out to save the world. It was, more selfish reasons. So,
Right.
but a very good decision. I loved my 3 years at the University of Miami, and I had a blast. And I learned a few things along the way.
Right. So you graduated in 2008, then, right? I'm guessing if my math
Yep.
is right. And did you immediately sort of open your own shop, or what'd you do once you got out of school?
I started working early on for a small litigation firm in South Miami, and like right at the end of my 1L year. So that went well. I went abroad later that summer, and when I came back, they wanted me to keep working. So I worked for the same firm all of 2L year that summer, all of 3L year, and then I took that summer off to study for the bar. I took the bar exam, and then I immediately went to work for that firm, and I was there for 3 years. So, you know, when I was in law school, I focused probably 70% of my time on the trial team. I kind of figured out early on that I really liked the trial setting and litigation and going to courts, and so I focused my time on that. I liked the law firm where I was at when they focused on litigation. I shouldn't say they focused on litigation because they did a lot of things, which I can talk about later, a lot of mistakes that they made that I'm trying not to make now. But in terms of the small firm atmosphere, that's what I was attracted to. So I was in the courtroom from day one, whereas a lot of my colleagues, you know, they hadn't seen the inside of the courtroom for 3 or 4 years unless they went to the public defender's or the prosecutor's office.
Right. Yeah. And I have a relatively similar story as well. I started at a small law firm, I started in a small law firm in a small town. So we did a little bit of everything as well. I got in the courtroom a little bit, and eventually had to go, you know, open my own shop. So what's the story behind that? You know, so 3 years go by at this firm that you're working at. Do you just get the itch? Well, let me back up a little bit farther. You know, I really what I know about you is what I sort of scoured the internet for, and I know, you know, that in your bio, at least on your law firm page, you talk about, you know, being interested in business since you were a kid and stuff like that. So had you always sort of had the idea of owning your own business in some fashion, or you know, when did that kind of little nugget get set in your brain?
Well, that's a good question, and I've been thinking about this recently as I'm redoing my website, and I'm going to get more into who I am and why I do what I do. Mm-hmm. So my family got to New Mexico, my dad's side of the family, after World War II. My grandfather went to watchmaking school, and this is in the 1940s, and he went to watchmaking school in Chicago. He lived in Kansas, and an opportunity opened up along the Santa Fe Railroad in a small town just outside of Albuquerque, and he worked out an arrangement with a gentleman to go work for this guy and then purchase his jewelry store. So you can imagine back in the 1940s, the train's timing system was via pocket watch. So you've seen the old movies or TV shows, and everyone back then had a pocket watch. It's all extremely true. They had to be pristinely kempt so that there were no malfunctions, because that's what the conductors went off and the train operators. And you can imagine the kind of trouble they would get in switching tracks if things weren't working correctly. So my grandfather uproots his entire family, and this is, you know, people didn't have a lot of money back then. If you know, you recall the World War II kind of got us out of the Depression, but certainly people weren't rolling in the dough at that time. So not a lot of money, moves his family across the country, and gets to the small town just outside of Albuquerque, and the guy reneges on him. And you can imagine the heartbreak or the pressure or what have you. And so my grandfather did what, I don't know, I think most people would do. He rolled up his sleeves and he opened up his own shop and he went to work. So, you know, 50 years later or 47 years later, we still had a jewelry store in town called Trembly's Jewelry. And that's the atmosphere that I grew up in. My father ended up buying the jewelry store from his dad, and they kind of ran it together for another 15 years or so before my dad eventually decided to move on. So, you know, I grew up in a small business, in a family business, and everyone knew the name and who we were, and I think that kind of always is what guided me towards you know, liking business and wanting to run a business.
Right. That's a great story. That's cool. So when you, well, let's fast track a little bit then to law school. Did you at some point, and when did you think about opening your own practice? You know, what was that process like?
I think, honestly, Chris, in the back of my mind, I have always known that I would work for myself. you imagine what you're going to be doing when you get older, and never once did I say when I was going to get older I wanted to, work for someone else. It was always, I want to open up this business, or I'm going to, invent this device, or I'm going to do something on my own. And so I think early on in law school, I decided, I'm here because I want the education, but I kind of like, the law firm atmosphere. So one day I'm going to have my own law firm.
Right.
Truth be told, I was at the other firm for 3 years. The guy was a phenomenal lawyer, not the greatest business acumen. If he were to have made me an offer to be a partner someday and kind of been smart about it, would I have thought about sticking around? Well, of course, I think we would all think about it, but other than that, I was always destined to be my own boss.
Okay. Cool. So this podcast has a lot of people that have started their firm or are thinking about doing it. So I'd like to really kind of dive into that time when you decided that you were actually going to do it, and sort of what steps you took. How did you go from being, an associate in a law firm to a law firm owner? What was that like?
Well, it was a lot of things. It was scary. It was exhilarating. It was fun. It was actually October 31st / November 1st of 2011. So Halloween is kind of my anniversary every year, and I just hit 3 years.
Right. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I woke up that first morning, Chris, and it was like I had woken up in a new world. And that may sound funny, but it was like I didn't have to wake up and have someone else call me or email me or text me and tell me what their plans were for me to do with my day. Because
Right.
Those of us that have employees, we have to keep them busy. We have to keep them productive. I mean, that's the employee-employee relationship, and both parties understand that. But when I was my own boss that very first day, it was just a whole new world, and it was so exciting to think whatever I do today is on my time. I get to make that decision. And I don't mean like, I can go golf today. That's not what I mean. I mean, everything I do today is going to be working for me to better my life, not someone else's life.
Right. Plus, it's cool because, I was going to say I've been there, right? I know exactly how you feel.
Yep.
And one of the cool things about it too, I explain it a lot like you do, but I would say too, one of the other cool things about it is, that, for every hour you spend, every drop of sweat that you endure, every late night, that it's all for you, that you're building something that is yours, and you're not just sort of, building something for somebody else. I mean, is the easiest way to say it, but everything that you put in, you're going to get to take out, and that's a feeling that a lot of people don't get to experience until they finally do it. And it's hard to describe, but it's an amazing feeling,
It really is. And so for the first month or so, I was at my office until 10 or 11 at night because I was setting up, the fax machine, or I was doing my email and making sure it's working, or I was, looking at how to design logos and reading business plans. And so when you're working really late for yourself, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like
Right.
You're on this amazing journey. When you're an associate at a firm and you're working till 10 or 11 at night for someone else, the only thing you can kind of do is tell yourself, hey, well, at least I'm getting paid. And I
Right.
think the difference that you and I are talking about is why, on a recent survey, the least happy employees in all of the U.S. were law firm associates out of everyone in the workforce. And, that's really telling.
Let's take a quick time out for a sec. I'm sure there are a ton of you out there thinking, yeah, this all sounds great, but how do I actually do this stuff? How do I implement it? Let me introduce you to a program I've created called Law Firm Confidential. Law Firm Confidential is about one thing: results. I've unlocked the secrets of my success in step-by-step how-to fashion so you can see the results with your firm that you know you deserve. And if you're just starting out, what I've created is the best how to start a law firm program around. Don't sit around and let your life pass you by. Go to lawfirmmarketingmastery.com/confidential today to find out how you can create the law firm of your dreams. Now, back to the good stuff.
So how did you leave your firm? How did you leave your old firm? Did you just quit? I mean, did you have any prep time? You know, like, what was that like? You know, and the reason I'm asking is because, you know, for the people I always encourage people to sort of follow their dreams and sort of go for it. And a lot of people get hung up because they're like, they don't know what to do first. You know, they don't know, or they put it off. You know, I'm going to start doing something next month, and then, you know, they look up and it's been a year, they're still at the same place, they're still doing the same thing. So what was that process like from when you decided, yeah, I'm going to do it, to when you actually got out on your own? Did you just walk in one day and say, I'm done, it's over? Or, you know, what was that like? What was that process like?
It was interesting. You know, and I think what you're sort of referring to, it that, again, you and I that have been through it, there has to be a defining moment where you make the decision. It's a strange phenomenon, but once you make the decision, things start to fall in place. But when you're on the fence, like you're saying, well, you know, maybe 6 months from now, you don't see the other side of it, where all of a sudden an opportunity opens up and you figure, you know, banking's going to be easier than I thought, and my letterhead's not, and like all these little things just sort of align for you because in your own mind you made the decision. So then all your actions move towards accomplishing, you know, your own systems and processes and your own goals at that point. So for me, it was a conversation months earlier, you know, telling my boss that I knew one day I wanted to run my own firm, him kind of hinting he wanted to keep me on. 6 months later, it was actually the door opened for me because the attorney sat down with the firm owner talking about, you know, bringing in more money, and I think that was, you know, 2011, sort of the tail end of when a lot of law firms were squeezing, you know, cutting overhead, and that was just a good opportunity for me to be like, look, I've been thinking about this for 2 years, I'm out of here, you know, and I gave him 30 days basically, and so all of a sudden things just fell into place, you know. I just started getting things in order as I was leaving, and you have to make that definitive decision and then announce it, like not in your own head, but you know, once I said I was out of here in 30 days, there was no going back. And if I hadn't have actually said that out loud, I'm not sure what would have happened or if I would have backed out of it. But, you know, once I said it, it was done. I was moving forward, and then, you know, things really started happening quickly.
Cool. What do you remember how you got your first client?
I do. It was not long after I left. It was a referral. I started telling all my friends and my you know, people that I had met that I had started my own firm, and I just reached out to someone at the right time, and I picked up a small case for a few $1,000s, and I thought, man, this is great. Every single one of these dollars is going to me,
right?
As opposed to, you know, straight to the firm. So yeah, I definitely remember the first one. It was a good feeling.
Now, when you say that you reached out, did you what did you do exactly? Was it email? Was it phone calls? Were you just telling people as you saw them? You know, did you have a plan for that, or was it sort of just, you know, flying by the seat of your pants?
Yeah, I was fly by the seat of my pants, which if I knew now what I knew then, I would have been much more aggressive about it. So I called a few people and I did a few personal emails. I was waiting to get a website up before I did like this huge, you know, email announcement. And so I did that about 6 months later, and then I really got a lot of business all at once. So I wish I had known more about how to market myself and how to reach out to people and, you know, ask how I can help them and tell them about what I was doing, which, you know, it's just part of being a small business owner. You learn those things as you go.
Yeah. So, okay. So tell us what, you know, if you could do it over, if you could start over at the beginning, how would you do that a little bit differently? Like, what would you do?
I would not be so concerned with having everything in place and kind of hiding out. Boy, I don't have a website yet, and I don't have my letterhead yet, and I just picked up the small office, but not everything's in order, so I'm going to spend 3 months getting everything together. I would just pick up the phone, call every person I know, tell them I started my own law firm, and ask them how I can help them improve their business and see if there's any opportunity for us to work together.
Right.
People skip that step. They skip the, well, I'm going to do a website, and then I'm going to do the social media stuff. I mean, pick up the phone and call the people that you know and see where you can add value.
Yeah, what I say is it's as hard and as easy as that, because
Yep.
it's so easy to do that, but there's a lot of for a lot of people, it's a scary thing, because you got to face people saying, you know what, I don't want to talk to you, even people or just saying I don't have any business for you or whatever, So you gotta face the potential of being rejected in whatever form that may take, and just push through that and not be afraid to pick up the phone and start just making relationships. Just letting people know that you're out there and what you're doing. That could be pretty difficult for people sometimes.
It certainly is, and because it's not the funnest thing that if I laid out the 10 things that I would want to do with my day, if money weren't an issue,
Right.
Making a bunch of phone calls wouldn't be on that list. But it's not cold calling, for anyone that's listening to this. I don't open up a phone book and start cold calling. That's a lot different than calling the people and saying, I'm just excited to tell you what I'm doing and learn more about what you're doing and see how we can help.
Right. All right. Okay. All right. Cool. What tell me about what was the biggest challenge that you faced so far with your firm?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm not from Miami, so whether it's a fact or an excuse, I don't have 200 high school buddies, and their families that are still here that I could reach out to. I didn't have a network, so to speak of. So I started joining groups left and right, and I just got out there and met people. I picked up a few clients early, and then the holidays hit, and it was kind of lean. I remember not bringing in any money for a period of, almost 30 days right after the new year, and thinking, holy crap, am I going to make it? Am I going to fail? Am I going to be a failure? Am I not cut out for this? And all those doubts kind of arise, and that's the process of being an entrepreneur. There are lean times, there are fun times, and sometimes it's feast or famine. And so, it was challenging at first.
So let's talk a little bit about what I'm going to call sort of your effort at networking, which is, you mentioned that you joined a bunch of groups and started to meet people for, what happens is, and I'm in your group. So what happens is, as we look back, we think about what happened, and it just turns into, well, I went and joined some groups, and I met some people, and I got some business, right? But if you can sort of take yourself back to that time and describe to us in a little bit more detail, sort of what that process was like. How did you pick the groups? What did you do when you went there? Did you just try to meet random people? Did you have a follow-up sequence that you did, even if it was natural? What was that process like? Because I know one of the things that people know is that they should be out there doing the stuff that you just talked about, but they're not really sure how to do it. They're not really sure what the nuts and bolts are, what the execution is like. So can you talk a little bit more just about maybe describe, what one of those early meeting groups was like, and what you would do and how you would approach it? If you had certain goals in mind, or what you did when you met people, what was how'd you do that?
Okay, that's a really good question. Networking, I mean, first of all, if you're not good at networking, it's something you can definitely learn. But if you're in a relationship business and you're really, really just I mean, I read something one time talking about like, 90 tips for how to be a man. One of these like articles geared towards guys, and one of them said, if you're more clever than you are good looking, don't go to a loud club to try to meet a girl.
Right.
So we all know that really funny guy who's awesome at conversations. Well, how is he going to do when he's got to scream at the top of his lungs and try to dance with somebody if we're out having fun? So I think you have to play to your strengths. And if you're not good at just walking up to someone at an event out of the blue and sticking your hand out and saying, hi, my name's Chris Small. My name's Brett Trembly. Nice to meet you. What do you do? Then you either have to, come to a realization that maybe you should work for someone else, or what I would suggest is, because I think most people do have it in them, you've got to really invest in yourself to improve yourself and turn yourself into that kind of person. And
Right.
so,
And I'll say, before we get into the details of this part, I want to agree with you and just add one thing onto that, is that, I don't know if you can remember the first times that you did this, but I certainly can. And I fumbled all over myself. I wasn't like Rico Suave or anything. I wasn't great at it. I may not have even been very good at it. But the key is to go out there and do it, and to continue to do it and be okay with not doing it perfectly, and maybe saying something stupid, or having somebody look at you funny, or forgetting somebody's name, or whatever you think is just the worst thing that could ever happen to you in the world, and just continue to go out there and literally, I guess it's just you're practicing at it when you do it, and just know that over time it's going to be like anything else you've ever done, where you kind of sucked at it at the beginning, but the more you did it, the more you thought about it, right? The more you learned about it, the better you got, right? So I agree with you. I think anybody can get those skills. I think some people have to work harder at it than others, but that is, like you said, either you got it or you don't. If you're hungry enough, you're going to go out there and do the stuff that will work. And this is one of those things. So, anyone that's listening, understand that we all sucked at it at one point. Most of us. I would imagine even Bill Clinton, who I think is the most charismatic person in the whole world, I bet he sucked at it when he started. For him though, he started when he was like 12. Because
right.
he just been doing it forever.
Natural, so.
Right.
Yeah.
But for anybody can do it, and I agree with everything that you said, and just wanted to really emphasize that, because I didn't want people to take out of what you said that if you should go do something else. I think you should make this a part of what you do, and you'll get better at it as it goes on. If you really hate it, maybe you just do a little bit less or something. But if you're not meeting people, if you're not continuing to build relationships and put yourself out there, it's going to be really tough to succeed, I think, at this law firm ownership game,
Exactly, and that was well said, and I think that the point is not, hey, if you're not really sociable or good, then you can't do this. The point was, you have to be willing to invest in yourself and put the time in to say, I am going to do this, I am going to get better, and I am going to learn it. And if you have that attitude, you can make it.
Right. So let's talk about these groups. Did you pick groups that you liked? Did you pick groups that you thought would have, potential clients there? How did you pick the groups that you joined?
Okay, so I joined a Rotary Club early on, kind of a family deal. My father and grandfather were in Rotary. It's a business and civic involvement group, service above self. So it's a little more service-oriented, but it's all business owners. And then I joined Business Network International, or BNI, which is like networking on steroids. It's category exclusive, and it is, what have you done for me lately? And I love that concept. Like, you mean these people are going to work as hard for me as I am for them? That was the whole reciprocity idea was just phenomenal to me. Then a little bit later, I started joining, business associations. So yeah, I focused on a lot of business-oriented groups. Depending on the type of law you practice, like real estate attorneys may go to, construction sort of seminars and groups and that sort of thing. So I tailored it towards meeting business owners.
Okay, and then when you got to these meetings, would it just be your goal to meet as many people as possible? Did you have a goal to meet 2 or 3 people, or did you have goals at all? Or what was your mindset coming into these groups?
I can tell you what I do now and what I did then. So,
okay.
And you said this earlier, it's about building relationships. It's not about how many cards you can hand out. I laugh now when I see the young guy at a networking event. You haven't even introduced yourself. He's thrown his, and I shouldn't say young people because I still know veterans that do this, and
right.
It's a huge mistake. But you throw your card in someone's face and then you just word vomit. Like, how much can I tell this person about what I do in a short amount of time before I lose their attention? So I remember doing some of this early on, and then I would feel great about the conversation. Well, that's because I did all the talking.
Right.
Here I'm doing a lot more talking than I normally would in a conversation because we're on a podcast and you're asking me a lot of questions. So
right, you're the focus. You're the focus of this one, though.
Right.
That's why it's different.
Right. So I'm trying to give answers. But when you're out meeting people, the last thing you want to do is be that guy who is premature soliciting. So I kind of figured that out early on, and I now especially what I do is I ask people for their business card, and unless they ask me for one in return, I don't shove it in their face. And I have a specific system of follow-up. People that I think are good people that I want to meet, I'll reach back out to them and try to set up a lunch meeting or coffee, find out more about what they do and how I can help them. And if they ask me how they can help me, great. And, stay in touch via email. I have an email newsletter that I ask people if they want to join before I just add them. And, you just kind of, then you stay in touch with people and you make those calls that we were talking about earlier. You continue to do that. And so that's kind of my focus now. When I go, like last night, for example, I was at an event with attorneys and CPAs. So my goal, with another part of the question you asked me, is to meet 2 or 3 sort of influencers, people that I think that look in the crowd like they're kind of movers and shakers, and ask them for their card and try to sit down with them and later on and pick their brain a little bit and establish that relationship, and then again follow up and see if I can help them. I mean, it has to be organic and it has to be natural. I think people can sniff you out if you're only there for yourself and you only talk about yourself and you only care about what you're doing.
Right, I agree. There's this book that I give out to a lot of people that I make new business relationships with. It's called The Go-Giver, and it's
Bob
sort
Berg,
of
exactly right.
It explains, it's sort of the philosophy that I try to approach all my relationships with, and it's just like you said, that sense of what can I give, how can I help, and just know that, you can just know, you don't even have to know what they are, but you can just know that there are a lot of psychological principles that will start to work in your favor just by force of the universe when you do that, that will come back to you, many times over. And it's crazy how that works. So and everything, I can tell you everything that you described is sort of, that's the way that I approach that same kind of stuff. And, the follow-up is extremely important, I think, and, trying to find ways that you can help other people, like you said, is also just the way to go, and over time, people will have, and the thing is, what will happen too, sometimes is it's not necessarily even the people that you have the relationships with where you get the business from. It's the people that they know,
Right.
because they want to look like a connector too. They want to help their network out, So if they have a trusted source that they can send someone to, where they know they're gonna be talking to somebody that's reliable and trustworthy, then they're excited to do that, because it makes them look good too. That's what I found, at least.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought up the Go-Giver and Bob Berg, because what I do now is nothing I invented. I read the book, I heard one of his seminars, and it just made so much sense to me. So a huge mistake that I made early on, if I got a phone call from somebody that was looking to hire me, or maybe just found me online or they were referred. Maybe I answered a few questions. I hung up. I had no way of ever getting in touch with that person again if they didn't call me back, which
Right.
to me now sounds so ridiculous that's how I would, go about my business. But when you're young and you're hustling and you don't think you need to take time to do those things, but now I capture people's information so that I don't just get a phone call once and have no way of getting in touch with that person again. So the other thing is early on to develop a system for capturing information to add into your contact management software, because these people called you for a reason, and they may not need you right then and there, but they may need you 6 months from now. I mean, how many times have we heard, even a good client, I even have good clients who will say, I couldn't find your information.
Right. Right.
Right? Imagine someone you only had a conversation with once that thinks, man, who was that guy again? What was his name? Well, you lost them. They never heard from you again.
Well, and the way I think about it, I just try to put myself in the shoes of the potential client in the services that I use. Let's say, I needed even my dentist. I mean, I know who they are, but I don't know what their phone number is. I'd have to go out and find them. But let's say you're looking for like a plumber or like a car mechanic, some other service-based business, where you may not need them all the time, but when you need one, you need a good one. You don't keep those people at the top of your mind because you don't need them until you need them. I don't know what your business is like if you're doing a lot of sort of repeat stuff, sort of more management stuff or more kind of one-off stuff with your clients, probably a little bit of both. But with the one-off stuff, it's important to keep in touch with them so that they remember you when the time comes that they need you. That's why the email list that you do is so important, right? I mean, even if you don't even necessarily have to be giving them hardcore legal stuff every week or every 2 weeks or every month or whatever when you send your email newsletter. It's just important to kind of remind them that you're there, make them feel good, and send them on their way, so that they'll remember you later.
It is one of the oldest concepts in marketing, but for some reason people either try to outthink it or they just forget about it. But you said top of mind. That's what it is. It's top of mind awareness. So the next time they meet someone that needs you, you're the first person that comes to their mind because they just heard from you earlier that week. They got an email or a phone call. And that's exactly the way it works. Think about the last commercial you saw, and then someone brings up, a product, and you immediately think of it.
Right.
If you don't remind people that you're out there constantly, they'll forget about you.
All right, everyone. Now I want to take another time out for a sec. A lot of people think the Law Firm Marketing Mastery training programs are just about making money, and honestly, yeah, there's a lot of that. Spend some time with me, and you're definitely going to be making more money. But there's so much more to it than just making money. It's important to be rich and have a great life too. I want you to be great at work, great at home, great with your friends and family. I want you to step it up everywhere. I want you to get results with your life, not just with your business. And the results are real. I've had many conversations with members who are experiencing big-time success. If you're listening to Law Firm Marketing Mastery, you are the type of person who's already interested in improving themselves. There's a lot of options out there today, and I think you have already decided. If you want to check out your options for improving your business and living the life of your dreams, check out lawfirmmarketingmastery.com/confidential. Hope to hear from you soon. Enjoy the rest of the show.
So I want to kind of circle back around to when you were talking about sort of the challenges that you faced. You sort of talked about those lulls, right? Those dips that can sometimes happen in cash flow, if nothing else. What do you do, or what did you do to sort of get through that time? Both, I guess, mentally and then sort of in the real world. Because I've been, and I'll tell you what, I don't know about you, but it still happens to me now. So if the phone doesn't ring for like a day, my teeth start chattering, and I start like checking all my stuff to make sure that the phone's working, and like it still makes, I think it always kind of makes you nervous,
Yeah.
So what do you kind of do to when those times pop up, what do you do?
Right. Well, I could sit here and pretend like I have this figured out, and I would be being very dishonest if I pretended like I have it all figured out, right? So certainly I hope in 10 years from now I'll be better and smarter than I am right now. But it's true, just like you said, there are still times, and I know solo attorneys with million-dollar law firms that they have ebbs and flows in cash flow, and like I'm going to be at a cash crunch, 3 weeks from now because I know my numbers, and exactly, it's scary. So I don't have that part figured out. A few months ago, I figured out in August everyone takes vacations because their kids are about to go back to school, and just like that, it was like a 2-week period where, I mean, it felt like I was in a zombie world or something. Nothing was happening, and it was the strangest thing. And what did I learn, or what did I do to get out of it? I'm not sure. I think you keep plugging along or plugging away, and I think you think, well, the next time, 6 weeks before that, I'm going to do some extra marketing or make some extra phone calls because I know that this time of year may not be so hot. But I think you don't panic. You've got to be mentally prepared. As you asked, what do you do mentally? Because that's why you threw that out there, Chris, because you and I know that the mental game of this can be a lot more daunting than anything else sometimes.
For sure.
You don't bring in a new client for a week and you're like, what the heck is going on, and you kind of get worried or what have you. So I think you have to have faith in the process, but you have to develop a system that you have a marketing funnel that's going to bring in a certain amount, and you know how to turn on or tweak that funnel a little bit.
Right. What I say is what? Plan to work and work to plan, So when things slow down, you just keep, the thing is too, if it's worked in the past, unless there's some seismic shift in the world, or in the cosmos, it's probably going to continue to work in the future. The things that you've done in the past. So you just continue to do those. Because I can tell you I always caution people about this whenever I talk to people about it, is don't run off and start like spending a bunch of money on some other random stuff, hoping to get like the quick fix, because they don't really exist. You just gotta, like you said, plan ahead, know what you're doing, have your marketing funnels kind of in place, and then be ready to sort of tweak them as necessary to go. So I agree with you. In the mental game, that's the hardest part. It's crazy how your mind messes with you, and how bad your mind can make failure seem. Even though at the end of the day, even if it all goes to hell in a handbasket, you can just pick up and start over in reality. That's the thing that people don't ever want to, I think, talk about. But I always try to get people to walk through a worst case scenario, kind of a situation, like a real worst case scenario. Like, okay, let's say nobody calls. Then what happens? It's like, okay, well, I run out of money. Okay, then what do you do? Well, I don't know. I probably go try to find a job somewhere. Yeah. Okay. And then what? And then that's it. They just move on and you do something else, or you learn and you do something else. It's not like they kick you out of town, or anything, or you're, you know what I'm saying? So, all right, cool. So, all right, I have one more question, sort of big main question, and then I have a lightning round, which is kind of just like some quick questions that I like to ask everybody, just because they're things that I'm kind of curious about. Okay. And that's just for the future. What are your goals? Kind of what, we're getting towards. Well, I have two questions actually, just because of the time of the year that we're at. What is because I'm sure you do this, what is your sort of planning and goal setting process like for your firm? Whether it's coming up on 2015 and sort of strategic planning, what kind of stuff do you do for that? What's your process like for that?
Okay, well, I set financial goals, and then I think, well, how many new clients do I need to pick up to meet those goals? And then how am I going to pick up those clients? And what sort of marketing, what sort of calls, how do I make this happen? And if I do pick them up, do I have the people in place to serve all those clients? If not, then, maybe I need to hire someone in anticipation of growth. So I kind of start with, big picture where I want to go, and then work backwards.
Right. Have you set your goals for 2015 yet, or do you have that like on your calendar? When do you do that?
I recently did that in the middle of October. I kind of put together my business plan for the next 18 months. My goal is to double my firm in terms of revenue in the next year and a half. So,
cool.
you know, I know about 4 months from now, I'm hopefully in a position to hire an associate for the first time, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing interviews this week for a new paralegal and a new secretary receptionist. You know, I don't have like a 3-page sort of business plan with graphs, and you know, I'm just not that detailed in terms of what my goals are. I just know that the goal is to increase revenue, and then let's figure out how to make it happen.
Right. Well, you know, I guess I would respectfully disagree with your lack of specificity. I think that you do have it there. I think it's just not in that form, you know, because like you said, you do back it up to basically what do I need to do this month or this week or today to sort of take the next step, right, to meet that big goal, you know. Because you know,
Yeah,
when you're small,
you're
when you're
right.
a small firm, like you don't need very specific financial projections because it's just not necessary. I mean, you know, that's just not the way that our businesses have to work. You know, there's just not that there aren't 5 levels of management that you have to work through, you know, to get something done. You know, you just think it and do it. So
Yeah,
your
that's true.
process is, your process is a lot like mine too. So I think that's great, and that's the best. That's what I always encourage people to do. Start at the end, and then just continue to backtrack until you basically get to today, or to, you know, whatever the smallest thing is that you can do to sort of take the next step towards your goal. So
Yeah,
that's cool.
and let me interject, because I think you're right. I think when you said you disagree with me, I think you're correct. I do have the plan and the details, but what I don't have is what people think of a business plan, and then it becomes scary, so they don't do it, is the 45-page business plan, dissertation, thesis, whatever big, you know, complicated word you want to throw out there at the end of your MBA, or, you know, for a project in business school. It doesn't need to have, you know, a graph on page 4 which coincides with a flow chart on page 87. You just need to get it down in writing and put your thoughts and what you're going to do on paper, even if it's not, you know, the most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
Yep, I agree. Cool. All right. So are you ready? Oh, what's up?
No, yeah. So I was going to say, for my business clients, I tell them, you know, don't be scared off by it. Just put something in writing. Just do it. And so, you know, that's kind of, anyway, I just want to throw that out there for anyone that has that big, scary, oh my God, business plan idea in their head. It doesn't need to be, you know, 40 pages. Mine's 3 pages long, for example.
Right.
But hey, before we go into the lightning round,
Yeah.
can I just throw out one thing? Because you and I saw something mentioned before, and it was kind of my definition of success. Is that part of the lightning round, or can I mention something now?
Yeah, that is part of the lightning round.
Okay, great. Let's do it.
All right. The one thing I was going to say though is that what you just talked about with your related goals kind of goes back to your overarching theme from earlier too. Is that, you know, you don't have to. Well, you shouldn't expect perfection and wait for perfection before you do something. You know, just like you were talking about with waiting to reach out to people before you have your website done and you have your everything done exactly right. You know, you just want to do it, and then you can tweak it as you go. You know, so I think that's just an overarching theme that just continues to come out again and again. I think it's critical that once one sort of gets that and kind of internalizes that, it makes everything else, you know, so much easier. So I just like that. All right, you ready for the lightning round?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Okay. All right. So do you have a morning routine?
Depends on the morning, but I do not have a specific morning routine like you read on entrepreneur.com, for example. No.
Okay. Do you have any kind of a daily ritual or anything that you do that from day to day?
I try to get home at a decent hour to spend the last hour and a half to 2 hours of the day with my daughter. So
Okay.
what I've decided is that's most important for me, as opposed to, like, maybe 3 times a week I do get up and I work out or I go for a run. But except when I have a networking event that I can't miss, my routine in the evening is more important to me, and that's spending a few hours a day with my little one.
Right. Cool. I like that. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Invest in yourself. Watching every penny is important when you're a business owner without a lot of money, or you have an idea and you want to get started. But I used to not make a decision because I didn't have the money, and I didn't know where the money was going to come from. So if you always wait until you have a bunch of money, and then I'm going to do a website, and then I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I went ahead and joined a program called How to Manage a Small Law Firm, which was, at the time more than I would have liked to pay, something like that. But it's basically a whole business community for solo shareholders. Chris.
What's up, man?
Hey, man. I don't know what happened.
I don't either. We got disconnected, but let's just dive right back into it. You were talking about Arjon's program. You basically, right when you started to describe it, that's when you got cut off. So if you wanted just to take it from there, that'd be cool. I can tell you I don't know if you remember what you're talking about. You basically were talking about investing in yourself, and
right.
you had to basically pay for this program before maybe you felt comfortable having the money to do it.
Okay. I kept going, and I'm not sure exactly where to jump in, but I'll just...
Well, you're just talking, you were just basically talking about what the program was like.
Okay.
It basically was right at the start of that is where that happened. So if you want to, and I can tell you, I was a part of that program too for quite some time. So I'm familiar with it, and I've actually interviewed him before for this podcast.
Oh, good.
So people do kind of know what it's like, but I'm a fan of his, and even though I'm not in the program anymore, I still recommend his program. I think it's a great program.
Right.
So if you want to talk about it some more, you can. I don't have any problem with that. And then, we'll get going.
If you felt like it was a good ending place, maybe we'll go on, because I felt like I was taking that question too far anyway. But
okay, that's cool. Yeah, no, the overall theme though, right? Invest in yourself. That's that's where it's at, and that's what you're talking about right there. Is sometimes you have to, and I, where you were going, I think too, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that sometimes you have to put forth the money and just understand that what you're going to learn and the knowledge that you're going to gain is going to help you make that and then some. It's return on investment at its core.
Absolutely, and what I'm learning now over the past several months is sometimes it's really as simple as, when I spend money, I make money. When I spend the money to attend a seminar and learn something that I implement, it helps me make money. When I put a little more into marketing because I know that it's the right type of marketing for my firm, I make a little more money. So, it can be that simple. They say it takes money to make money, which is 100% true, but sometimes you just got to spend money to make a little more money. As long as you're investing, I'm not talking about taking vacations every other week. I'm talking about investing in yourself and learning the things you need to learn.
Right, definitely. Okay, what's and I want to relate this sort of to marketing or client acquisition, but what's something that's working for you right now?
For marketing and client acquisition?
Yeah.
It is my system of follow-up when I meet a potential referral source or a potential client at a networking event. So what happens is, and you know this, Chris, because we read the same books, but somebody else there met 15 people that night, and all of us wake up the next morning and we have a stack full of business cards and we can't put a face to the name. So a few days later, when they get a card from me with my picture on it that says, "Hey, nice meeting you," that makes me stand out from the crowd. I get so many compliments on, wow, that was such a cool thing you did. No one does handwritten notes anymore. And you don't leave it at that, then you continue to follow up. But that has really worked, and I know it sounds simple. Sometimes it is simple, and it just really worked phenomenally for me.
Yeah, I agree. It is simple, but it's almost so simple that no one else does it,
Yep.
which is crazy, and it works. People do love it. Okay, let's see. You can only recommend one book to someone. You can't recommend any of the books that we've talked about so far. What book is it? And what I mean by someone is someone like us. Okay, new law firm owner, someone that is trying to create a successful business. What's the one book that you would recommend to them?
For someone who is at the early stages or thinking about it, I would recommend Think and Grow Rich. And maybe we kind of talked about some principles in that book, but we didn't mention it by name.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with it because, again, the power of making a decision and then putting in the effort to make that decision happen, the world changes for you. It just really does, because you're putting out the energy towards a certain goal, and the world will help you meet that energy. And I don't want to sound hokey, because I'm not really like that, but it's amazing how things start lining up when you have made a decision in your mind and then you start acting on that decision.
Right. I believe it. It's 100% true. And it is. It's sort of like woo-woo, it's mystic, but it works.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Okay, tell us about the one habit that you have that's helped you achieve success.
The one habit that I've had, is me a habit. Well, I think being organized, and there are, a lot of good litigation firms that are supremely organized, but when you're starting off on your own, if you don't have a budget to hire someone early on, then you're doing everything yourself. So the earlier you get organized and that you get your contact management software in place and everything else, you're going to be light years ahead of your competition. So the worst thing is to lose someone's information or paperwork, and again, it might be something simple like being organized, but not everyone's good at being organized, and if you're not, you've got to get someone in place to help you in that area, because if you lose dates or you miss deadlines, it can be disastrous for a young firm.
Cool. All right, what is your definition of success?
Personally, Chris, I don't believe that if you're spending 80 to 100 hours a week in your job that you're successful. And that's not a cop-out, because I believe, the quote-unquote 1% of the CEOs, they outwork everyone. So I firmly believe in hard work and working harder and smarter and better than other people, and that hard work will eventually surpass talent. But what you do as a small business owner is you bring on more people to help, and the more people you bring on, the more time that they're putting back on your plate, because you're not doing your own e-filing, you're not doing your own calendaring, and then later on you're not doing your own motion. So if I had to be in my office from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every night, in order to make a decent living, then I don't consider that person successful. Maybe financially, but not professionally or personally. So to me, my definition of success is having my life in order, personally, professionally, and financially, so that I'm happy and I'm providing a good life in those areas for my family.
Yeah, I agree. I call my law firm my dream realization machine. It works for me to do the things that I want and live life the way that I want.
And that's powerful. It works for you, not the other way around.
Yeah, and that's the coolest thing about owning a law firm. That's one of those. That sort of goes back to that thing that we were talking about. It's so cool to have just control over your life. 100% control. It's cool. Okay, what is the one question I didn't ask you that I should have?
Probably the number one mistake I made, or the best piece of advice that I would give to either, graduating law students or, to young professionals. I know a few buddies who started their own law firm right out of law school, and I respect the heck out of that. But, despite all the things we've said, unless you have the capital to hire someone early on that's more knowledgeable than you and better than you and older than you, at the end of the day, you still have to deliver legal services, however you get that done. So if you have no grasp of how to get the work done, you're either not going to get it done right, or you're going to spend too much time being a technician. And so, I would recommend at least get your feet wet and kind of learn how to do some things, learn how to write motions, learn where the courthouse is, learn how to go argue, or if you're transactional, get a database, working for a firm for a few years first. So I hope that's not a cop-out, but I think it really provides you with the fundamental knowledge, and at least you can make a decision. This is what I want to do, or this is, I know for sure I want to work for myself, because you and I have said a lot of things that are simple, but that doesn't mean they're easy. Being a small business owner or an entrepreneur, it can be hard. It's very stressful. There are sleepless nights when you're getting started, and you have to be ready for all those things. So if you're that kind of person and you're ready to invest in yourself and refuse to lose, awesome. I love those kind of people. But you at least owe yourself to figure that out before you just jump in and do it.
Right. Cool. Perfect. All right. Last thing is one parting piece of advice and how people can reach you if you want. I don't know. I don't know if you want people reaching out to you or not. Because well, people reach out to me all the time because I talk about this stuff. And this is like what I do. It's this is like my little side project. But if you want, I know you're on. For example, I know you're on Twitter. Maybe you want people to reach out to you on Twitter or LinkedIn or something if they want to sort of connect with you, or maybe there's. I know there are people in Miami that listen to this, other attorneys and stuff. Maybe there are relationships there that can be built and things like that. So one parting piece of advice, and whatever contact information you want to give out is cool.
Great. I actually love helping people, and I offer all the time to sit down and spit whatever knowledge that I've learned about running a law firm. So anyone that wants to reach out to me and have a more in-depth conversation, great. My phone number is 305-431-5678. That's my law firm phone number. I would love to collaborate with people on Twitter and, promote each other's blogs on Twitter, do it that way. My Twitter is Trembly Law Firm, at Trembly Law Firm, pretty straightforward. And the one piece of advice, I guess, would be whatever you're doing, don't think I'm going to put in 20 years and then enjoy myself. You've got to enjoy what you're doing, the type of law you're doing, the clients you're helping, and you have to enjoy, as funny as it might sound, the downtimes, because they're going to make the profitable times that much more happy for you and your family. So if you're not in it and you're not going to look back and enjoy all those times in the journey, then maybe you're in it for the wrong reasons.
Cool. Great advice. And I think I think there are people like us as far as reaching out. I think for me, I kind of geek out on this stuff. I like to talk about it, and I like to learn from people. That's one of the reasons why I started this podcast. And you seem to me to kind of be like that as well.
Yep.
It's fun to kind of exchange ideas and hear what's going on with people and share experiences. So that's cool. I'm glad you're up for that. Okay, so that's it, man.
Yeah.
We're done.
Well,
success.
Next time, Chris, let me guest host your podcast, and I'll interview you, because I would love to hear everything you've learned, and I'm sure your listeners would as well.
For sure, man. I'm down for that. Definitely. Well, let's get it set up.
Yep. Well,
okay, cool,
for the
man.
Opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it. I know you're busy. You're a busy man, so I'm going to let you go, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Chris. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm back, and I told you it was going to be awesome, and it was, right? So I hope you got a ton from that. I know I did. That's why I love having these interviews, because gives me an opportunity to kind of talk shop, also to get new ideas from people, which is always exciting. So I hope you took a lot from that. And before I let you go, I want to once again just remind you, please go check out lawfirmmarketingmastery.com/be everywhere to check out the free infographic and free training I put together for you. This is a great opportunity. It's not going to be up there forever to be able to get that. So do it today. Take 5 seconds. Pull up your browser, lawfirmmarketingmastery.com/be everywhere. And thanks as always for listening. And I really appreciate it. And I wish you the best of luck with your business. And with that, I will let you go. See ya. Special thanks to you guys for listening, show feedback, and guest suggestions. I rely on you all to keep my finger on the pulse. So if you know someone that is a good fit for the show, let me know. Chris@lawfirmmarketingmastery.com, and of course, Law Firm Confidential details there as well. Go ahead and email or call me honestly. That's the best way to get in touch, and I'll give you everything you need to know about my programs. If you are listening but aren't subscribed in iTunes or Stitcher, go ahead and make the change there, because getting your shows delivered free to your phone or computer while you sleep is the best way to make sure you don't miss anything. Just go to iTunes or Stitcher and search for Law Firm Marketing Mastery. That's it. And if you want to write me a nice review, I'll love you forever there as well, because it helps other people find me, and it's really important to keep my show ranks up. So tell your friends, because the greatest compliment you can give us is a referral to someone else, either in person or share it on the web. So have a great week. Go out there and take care of business, and know that the work you put in today is going to pay off 10 times over tomorrow.